Case number 7, homicide of Ted Westley, whose body was found in Freetown Fall River State Forest, Massachusetts. Here's another one that should not be in the jurisdiction of the police precinct of Ojai, California. Why did Detective Padilla have this case?
Are you talking to me?
Fuck, Carol, you scared me.
Sorry, I thought you were asking me something. Are you recording?
Yes.
Cool. Are you getting better at recording? Because I have to tell you, some of the past ones were shit.
The hell? What was bad about it?
Aside from all the mistakes you make, don't look at me like that. Those little slips you make when you pronounce the word wrong, yeah. They're not as discreet as you think.
Who cares? I'm getting paid to get this organized, recorded, and written down. They didn't ask for perfection, and if they can't understand something, then they could read the notes instead.
I guess. Cases are pretty weird, huh? I never would have guessed those files contained that. Pretty bonkers. You really think Detective Padilla was crazy?
I don't know, maybe. The cases are not investigated as thoroughly as they should. They seem to rely on statements that don't further the investigation. Majority of them should be disregarded, or at least have the paranormal aspect of them taken out of the statement. That's what makes her look crazy. She left that part in, and in some cases seems to think that they are valid.
Well, I never met her, but she had to be crazy. She had a lot of drugs in her house. They probably messed with her head.
Yeah, there's that. Are you the only one who has reviewed the cases I recorded?
Yeah, so far. I haven't really started an investigation. Soon. I just need to get some leads.
Okay, well, now that you're here, do you know why there are cases here that are from different states? Does this police precinct have jurisdiction over that?
Not that I know of.
I knew it. I'll still record this one. Maybe we can give the cases to the police precinct that has jurisdiction when I am done.
Sure, you can do that. I'll leave you to it.
Okay. Statement given by Liliana Tronco in 2003 as follows. Have you ever felt as if you were being followed? Felt yourself looking over your shoulder when you're home alone, with a spine-tingling sense that someone is watching you, waiting for you, and they're just lurking in the shadows? It sounds crazy, but I wasn't always like this. I was brave, adventurous. I thought I wanted danger. My friend Ted and I wanted to go to Bridgewater Triangle. It's an area of about 200 square miles within southeastern Massachusetts. There has been many sightings of UFOs, poltergeists, balls of fire, and just an array of spectral phenomena. It was fascinating at the time. I had been a fan of the X-Files, and I wanted a very Mulder and Scully adventure, which is so stupid to think about now. I mean, they were trained FBI agents, and I was just a school teacher who longed for a stupid adventure. Ted was the same as I. We had known each other since high school, and believing in the paranormal bonded us. We had saved money, and we were going to go for a week exploring various sites within the Bridgewater Triangle that have documented sightings of what we were looking for. Freetown Forest wasn't the first place we visited. We had gone through a couple, and it was pretty tranquil. Nothing really out of the ordinary. They were all lovely forests, and I was starting to feel rather silly. Ted and I walked the trail. I was expecting this hike to be quiet like the others, but there were many dirt bikes that zoomed by us. It ruined some of the effect I was going for, but it was lovely just the same. The trail was heavily trafficked, and Ted kept talking my ear off with little facts about the forest. I didn't really pay attention to him. I'm not sure when it started, but it got quiet. I didn't hear the dirt bikes anymore, and when I looked around, I could not see anyone on the trail. I turned to tell Ted, but I could see that he had noticed too. When did everyone leave? He asked. I told him that I could not say. It had taken me by surprise as well. I was glad at first. I started taking pictures with my camera. Several minutes went by and I kept looking around expecting to run into someone. Nothing. And that was fine. Ted noticed it first. He jumped away from a tree he was resting his back on and looked behind it as if he was looking for something. What is it? I had asked. Did you see that? I think it was a child, Ted said. He poked around, calling out to the child. I hadn't seen anything. I was certain there was no child. I would have seen or at least heard it run away. But Ted was convinced. As we kept walking, he was on the lookout for the child. After a while, he was starting to convince me. There were still no people on the trail. I put my eye on the camera lens and heard light footsteps approach me from behind. Many of them. I thought, finally, we have run into someone. I turned to look at them, and there was no one. I looked at Ted, but he was glancing behind a tree, still looking for the child. "Did you hear that?" I asked him. Ted turned to look at me and asked what I had heard. "You didn't hear the footsteps?" I asked him. It sounded like at least 3 or 4 people behind me, but the footsteps were light, so maybe children? Now Ted looked at me like I was off. "No," he said. "It's been pretty quiet, but I was far from you, so I might have missed the noise you heard." "Yeah," I said. I tried to shake the experience. We kept walking, but every so often I would hear the crunch of leaves behind me as if someone had stepped on them. I would turn my head, but nothing was there. Ted had given up on the child and was now looking at me oddly. He did not hear the footsteps. For once, I wanted to see the dirt bikes again. It would make me feel less scared. I kept telling myself that this is what I wanted. Ted yelled and pointed to the trees beside the trail. "The child!" But no, it wasn't a child. It was small, but not a child. I looked at where he was pointing at, but I couldn't see anything. "It's gone," Ted said. He was searching behind the tree again, crouched down on all fours. I was concentrating on Ted as he disappeared behind the bushes when I heard running, small footsteps running towards me, many of them. I screamed and turned towards the sound. I didn't see anything, but I could still hear them running. Ted was preoccupied with his own search, and I just started running away from whatever was coming after me. I heard Ted call for me, but I didn't stop. Ted started screaming, and then I could hear his footsteps running alongside mine. He was fast and overtook me easily. He said they were after us, that there were many of them. Ted had seen them, I realized, and I could not. I turned my head back as I ran, but it was a mistake. I tripped on some rocks and fell forward. I felt as tiny feet stepped over me. They were leaving footsteps on the ground, and they were chasing Ted. I could feel a few of them had stuck around. I tried to get back up, but I felt sand get thrown in my eyes. It stung. I could not see a thing. I tried to get it out of my eyes, running even as blind as I was. I heard laughter, light, quiet laughter. It chilled me more than anything. I could not see, and something sharp poked my sides, my legs. It felt like daggers. I could feel the blood running down, but it wasn't a mortal wound. It was just enough to cause pain, but not enough to kill. I was crying. My eyes hurt so bad, and so did the cuts. I needed water. As much as I rubbed my eyes, it only hurt worse. I heard Ted scream from far away, and then a splash of water. There was water nearby. It was all I could think. I opened my eyes. They were blurry, but I could just make out the water. I was going uphill, but if I cut through the trail, I could reach the water. I ran, throwing my whole face into the water when I reached it, scrubbing at my eyes. It took a while, but slowly, the pain in my eyes subsided, so that the only pain I could feel was from the wounds I had. I didn't hear the footsteps anymore or feel their presence. I called out to Ted, but he did not answer. I stayed there for a long time, scared to move. I felt ashamed. Mulder and Skelly would not have done that. I found my way back to the trail, and there was finally people there, a lot of them. They were talking. I was so relieved to see them that I did not catch what they were saying at first. But when I did, I realized they were talking about paramedics and the police. They were saying that someone had jumped off of the ledge that was on this hike and fallen into the water. They had hit their head on a rock when they fell, and that they were dead. I shook my head, trembling from head to toe. "Where were all of you?" I yelled. That grabbed their attention, and they turned towards me. "We were being chased. Where did you guys hide?" They looked at me like if I was crazy, and maybe I was, because now I could finally see behind the trees the creatures that Ted saw. The thing that looked almost like a child, but not. It was so small and almost humanoid. There were many of them, smiling at me, and then they were gone. The police and paramedics took Ted's body out of the water. His mouth was open, as if he was screaming when he died. They made me identify his body. I told the police that we were chased, that it was an accident, that Ted did not commit suicide, but they labeled his death that way. I thought that if I left that place and that state behind, that I could forget. I wanted to forget. But they followed me. I hear them now, always. Little footsteps in my house. Small handprints in my windows. Faint laughter from behind. Occasionally at night, I will catch a glimpse of them. Their leering, smiling faces looking at me from the end of my bed. I can't sleep. Won't sleep. They prick me with their blades when I try to sleep. I can't get help. I will put that person in danger too. They will follow them, as they have followed me. Tiny footsteps behind me, in front of me. They are here. They won't leave. Not until I die. End of statement by Liliana Tronco. There was an autopsy done on Ted Westley. Blunt force trauma on the head from falling is the cause of death. There is also bruises and scratches on his body, but those look like they were obtained by falling off the ledge and into the body of water. The only odd thing noted in the autopsy was that when the eyes were examined, there seemed to be small traces of sand in them. Since the body fell in the water, there's no clear answer as to how much sand there was in his eyes before he fell, since most would have washed away. There's no sand nearby, so the presence of sand in the eyes does arise some questions. However, witnesses say that they saw Ted Westley running, screaming off the ledge. Witnesses. Ah, yes, here. Another statement. Witness statement. A couple by the name of Marcia and Luis Cabrillo. Marcia's statement as follows. Luis and I like to go hiking here in Freetown Fall River. We would walk the trail that brought us to the ledge so that we could look over the river. It had the best view. It was also full of people and dirt bikes, but we did not really mind. For a long time, this day was the same as any other. Until it wasn't. See, the people suddenly left. I didn't even realize when it happened, but they were gone. I told Luis how lucky we were. It was a rare sight, and it was like that for a long time. Luis started getting uncomfortable, but I led him to a spot on the ground and we sat down. I was starting to get scared, but I felt like it might be better to sit still. I had heard stories about these woods, and of many of the woods around here. It is easy to forget since I'm from here. I thought it was stupid superstition, but I saw what happened to that man. It was quiet until his screams broke through the silence, and I saw him running, clutching his eyes as if something were stinging them. He rubbed at them, trying to get whatever he had in them out. I thought he was crazy. I might have even shouted at him, telling him to be careful of the ledge. But then I heard it. He wasn't alone. There was things running beside him. It sounded like the thudding of several feet. I saw him swipe at something by his leg, and then a cut appeared out of nowhere. I didn't have time to look away when he slipped off the ledge and fell to his death. He could not see. His eyes were closed and in pain. I heard laughter from the spot he had just vacated. I wanted to scream, but Luis put a hand on my mouth. He moved my head away from the spot where the laughter had come from and made me look off the ledge again. I was breathing hard, so hard, until slowly I felt the presence leave. I started to hear dirt bikes again, and people walking, talking, normal sounds, the usual ones that accompanied this place. I didn't say anything. Louise was the one who told some hikers to call 911, that someone had fallen over the ledge. It happened so fast after that, and Louise denies hearing anything. He says the man jumped. He says he never put a hand in my mouth. He doesn't want to talk, but I know he is lying because he does not want to come back to this forest again. He is scared like me, but doesn't want to say it. End of statement by Marcia Cabrillo. Luis Cabrillo did not give a statement. He only affirms that he saw Ted Westley jump to his death, unaided, and to his knowledge there was no foul play. I did a background search on Liliana Tronco for curiosity's sake, and it seems that she committed suicide not long after the statement was given. She jumped off a cliff. I believe survivor's guilt might have played a part in this, which led her to commit this act. Therapy would have been good for her. A lot of us try to deal with our own problems because of the stigma surrounding therapy, but it is something for our mental well-being that should not be looked down on. I searched Marcia and Luis Cabrillo as well. They are still living, however, it is noted that they moved to a different state only a few months after this incident. Was it a coincidence? Or did they want to leave the Bridgewater Triangle? No use supposing. There's no need to investigate this case further since there was no foul play detected in this death. I will take the label of homicide off of this case and file it under resolved. End of Case 7.
Forgotten Creatures, a weekly horror podcast by Dark Nymph Productions, available on all podcast providers. For more information, follow us on Instagram at Forgotten Creatures Podcast.